Hi, I'm Agnes Robang and I'm currently a sophomore at Princeton University. Today I'm going to be talking about financial aid. Financial aid. So before we tackle financial aid, let's discuss the cost of a college education. As you can see here from this graph from collegedebtsolution.com, the cost of higher education has been rising and is going to continue to rise. And by the year 2027, the cost of attending a private university for 4 years could reach up to $400,000, and the cost of attending a public university could be up to $180,000 or so. You can check the specific cost of a specific college by looking at their website, and there it should be listed the tuition, room, board, etc. You can also check specific colleges using college calculators such as Big Future on College Board. But make sure that if you use these outside tools to cross-verify whether they are correct with the actual college itself that you're interested in. Now, financial aid is any form of financial assistance provided by an institution. So that might be your college or an outside party that is meant to fund your undergraduate college education. This financial aid could be a combination of grants, scholarships, work study paid employment, or loans. And out of all of these, except for loans, these do not usually need to be repaid. There are two types of financial aid. There's merit-based and there is need-based. Merit-based financial aid is obviously based on merit. So the people who will determine whether or not you will be awarded the financial aid is going to judge you based on specific distinguishing academic criteria. It could also be athletic criteria or your prowess in extracurriculars, for example. And from that, they will determine whether you will receive the grant or the scholarship. If you're going to apply for a merit-based financial aid, make sure you check the eligibility because only some schools offer these to international students, and these are rarely offered by selected schools. Another type of financial aid is need-based financial aid. And this type of financial aid doesn't look at your individual merits. Instead, it looks at your family and your family's income and how ready your family is to be able to cover the tuition. And they're going to decide on an amount of financial aid to give to you based on how much you are able to pay. This is usually very limited and offered by only the most selective schools. Now you might be wondering, do I apply for aid? How will this affect my chances? So if you're applying for need-based aid, you should be aware that there is two types as well. There's need blind and need aware. So in need blind, need-based financial aid, the school is blind to your financial need when they are considering you for admission. So they're not looking at whether or not you're applying for aid when they are reading your application papers. So, like it says here, financial aid does not affect your admission decision. Several schools have this policy, but you have to make sure that it applies to international students as well. Because there are some schools that are need blind, but only to local students. And they look if you applied for financial aid, if you're coming from an international. There's also need aware financial aid. So these types of schools, they look at whether or not you're applying for financial aid when they're considering your application. Usually, these schools exercise need-blind admissions until they reach their budget. And once they hit their budget, they're going to be more careful about who they're going to admit because they have to be careful in making sure their funds don't run out. These listed here are some need-blind and need-aware colleges. So under need-blind, we have Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, and Amherst. Usually these colleges have a large endowment, and that's why they are able to provide need-blind admissions to their students. And for need-aware, we have Brown, Columbia, Stanford, Duke, Cornell, Carnegie Mellon University, NYU, and Tufts. So these need-aware schools are need-aware specifically for international students. There are some schools here in this list like Brown that are need-blind for local students but need-aware for international students. So make sure you double check for your specific status, where you fall under. Now, let's tackle some strategies to maximizing chances of financial aid. So make sure first you're choosing the right colleges to apply to. If you absolutely need financial aid, only apply to institutions that offer financial aid to international students. It wouldn't really make sense to apply, to go through all of the effort and to pay for application to a school if you know that you would not be able to attend it if ever you get in. So keep an eye out for full need colleges and universities whose financial aid websites have statements such as Hamilton meets the full demonstrated financial need of every admitted international student for all 4 years. So this is another key thing. You have to look at whether they're willing to meet your full demonstrated financial need and for how long they're going to be willing to fund you. Because schools might only fund for a portion of what you may need to attend the college, and they're going to ask you to take a loan for the remaining portion. And schools might also be confusing in their statements by only giving the aid to you for a year, and they're going to leave it up to you to fund yourself for the other 3 years. You wouldn't want to be caught by surprise, so make sure you know everything related to the financial aid policy. Also, check if your schools offer specific scholarships to international students, the people in your major, or for some of your other interests. Maybe they have specific scholarships for music or athletics if that's what you're into, and you might be able to get those if you apply for them. Also, read the fine print, like what I mentioned earlier. Check for how many years you are eligible for the aid. And it could also be confusing because they might say $20,000 for 4 years, but you wouldn't know if it's $20,000 each for the 4 years or spread over the 4 years. So make sure you understand all of those terms very clearly. Another strategy is to stand out. Of course, you need to stand out because this is college admissions, and you want to make sure that the admissions officers read your application and think to themselves that they want you. But this is especially important if you want to be considered for need-aware admissions, because you are also trying to convince the school to fund you and give you their money. So make sure your test scores, extracurricular activities, and essays show why you, particularly you, more than anyone else, deserve to be admitted as an international student with financial aid. You, as an international student, are already going to be contributing to a college's diversity, since, especially if the college has a small international population. So you could take advantage of this and dig deeper and talk about how you can bring your culture and share it with the population. Steps and tips to applying. The FAFSA, it stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, is the application form for financial aid if you're a US citizen or permanent resident or green card holder. After you fill up this FAFSA form, it's usually sent to your colleges, and that's what they look at if they're going to be considering you for financial aid. If you're not a US citizen or permanent resident, you can fill up the CSS profile on College Board. This is what most international students who are not US citizens are going to fill up. And you have to make sure that College Board will connect to the schools that you are going to apply to, because there are some schools that have their own financial aid application and portal separate from this, such as Princeton, MIT, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, Purdue. So make sure you really go through the school's financial aid policy and see how you can apply for it. One tip is to apply early. You can choose to apply early if there's a single institution that you prefer above the rest and you know that you would rather go there than to any other school that you're applying to. But take note that if you do apply early and get in early, it will be difficult for you to compare your financial aid award rather than when you would be able to do after regular decision when you get all of your results at the same time. You can also check out other camp sessions that explain the difference between ED, early decision, EA, early action, REA, restricted early action, and some other schools that might fall in between these categories. Also remember that if you are granted early admission but you don't receive enough aid, you do have the choice to decline admission and maybe look at other schools in the regular round. Other ways to fund college. So aside from financial aid, which is typically a grant given by your college to you to aid you in funding for your tuition and other expenses, you can look at other things such as scholarship programs and awards. Listed here are about a dozen scholarship programs and awards, but this is not a limited list. There's a lot more if you keep researching and looking for yourself. There are 7 scholarships here emboldened, and I'm going to discuss the terms of some of these next. So first, we have the Wesleyan University Freeman Asian Scholarship, and this is an Asian scholarship that is given to one Filipino per year. So the Freeman Asian Scholarship is a scholarship given to 5 countries, and for each country, they take one person from that country per year. So this is given to one Filipino per year, and it covers your full tuition, even your first flight going there and your last flight going back home. And awardees are expected to return to their home countries after graduation. We also have the Northeastern University Scholars Program. This scholarship is full tuition scholarship and there's no additional application. And if you get admitted into this scholars program, you also have automatic admission into the honors program. There is the University of Southern California Trustee, Presidential, and Dean Scholarships. So these are 3 different types of scholarships. The Trustee one gives you full tuition off. The Presidential has half tuition covered, and Dean's has a quarter tuition. Take note that the applications for these scholarships must be submitted a month earlier, so in December instead of usually in January. And there's an interview required for finalists if you're being considered in the next round for these scholarships. There is the Vanderbilt University Signature Scholarships. This covers full tuition as well as summer stipends for study abroad, research, or service projects. These are actually 3 different kinds of scholarships. The first is the Ingram Scholar, and this is if you are considering combining professional or business career with community service. There is the Cornelius Vanderbilt Scholarship, which is for students with outstanding academic achievement and strong leadership and contributions outside the classroom. So notice that a lot of these descriptions are not very specific, so you can play your different strengths and try to match it to their description of what strong leadership and contributions outside the classroom is. There are Chancellor Scholars, which are students with outstanding high school records and who build strong high school communities by bridging gaps, economically, socially, and racially, and who have demonstrated interest in diversity, education, tolerance, and social justice. Notice the buzzwords like bridging gaps, diversity, and community. So if you've done anything related to these, then you should be considering these scholarships, such as the Chancellor Scholar. 250 students will receive one of these 3 scholarships mentioned. So 250 students will receive one of either the Ingram, Cornelius Vanderbilt, or Chancellor Scholarship. There's also the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn, World Scholarship. There's no additional application required and there's only 40 students admitted per year. You have to be strong academically and also have an amazing, enthralling, really compelling story to get this scholarship. UPenn also has 2 financial aid funds specifically for undergraduate Filipino students. If you look it up, it will say that they provide aid with a specific preference for students from the Philippines or of Filipino heritage. There's also the Duke University and University of North Carolina, UNC, Robertson Scholarship, and this is open to students applying to either Duke or UNC, but you can also apply at the end of your first year of college. This allows you to have dual enrollment at Duke and UNC, and it's evaluated on performance, community service-oriented initiative as well. It will give you full tuition, room and board, as well as funding for up to 3 summer programs. Occidental College also has the Margaret Bundy Scott Scholarship. It gives you $20,000 per year. So if you're going to college for 4 years, that's $80,000 in total. And it's renewable for 3 additional years. By the word renewable, it's kind of hinting that you have to apply every year, so you need to consider that. You have to maintain at least a 3.0 GPA for this scholarship. There are also other ways to fund college, such as national grants. So if you have other citizenships, then you could consider this as well. Colleges close to relatives. You can apply for colleges that are close to your relatives and maybe decide to live with your relatives and commute every day to school. This will help you save on room and board. You can also choose to work part-time locally, either work study through the school. This could be working in your school's library or dining hall. You have to make sure that your visa allows your job, because there are some types of jobs that are not allowed on an F1 visa. So make sure that you're really checking those because you want to play everything related to your visa safe. There are corporate scholarships like the Gates Millennium Scholars Program. And if you're an American citizen, you can also consider a lot of other corporate scholarships in the US, like the Coca-Cola one, for example. And another option is for you to study locally and then transfer. Although you have to keep in mind that transfer admissions are more selective. This can help ease the cost of attending college if you study, for example, for 2 years in the Philippines and then transfer to complete your third and fourth year abroad and get an international college degree. And another option to fund college is to take out a student loan. But remember that these have to be repaid and often with an interest. Where can I look for more opportunities? If you're still looking for more options and opportunities, you could look at College Board. They have a really extensive and broad scholarship database, and they consider international applicants, religion, disabilities, ethnicities, and so much more. It's really worth checking out. Big Future College Board scholarship search. You can look at supercollege.com as well. Supercollege.com shows scholarships, and there are also a lot of sort of like fun contests and ways for you to earn scholarships to fund your college experience. Like, for example, here it's offering a Stuck at Prom scholarship that's $10,000 worth. You can also check out, of course, scholarships.com. Wondering how you will find the college scholarship money to pay for your dream college? We can help. So this is a very broad website as well that will help you. You can also look for more opportunities through foundations, religious or community organizations, because they might have a college fund that you can use. And you can also ask the financial aid offices at the specific colleges you're interested in if they have any recommendations on ways in which to fund your undergraduate tuition. And of course, you can research all other kinds of different ways in which you can fund your college experience. Financial Aid 101, this entire presentation is just sort of a leaping off point for you to look for more ways in which to find funding opportunities. Okay, if you have any questions or comments, you can contact Camp Philippines, and you can also feel free to email me at that email, agnesrobang@gmail.com. Thank you.